If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite.
Welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and I thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of yWrite, because I'm loving doing this show, and I am so appreciative for all of you who have reached out to say that you have been interested in watching the show, not only for tips on how to write, but also to find out more about all the authors that we have on and buy their books and read them. Now, today I have a very special guest, as you can see, with a big stack of books next to her. And this is Carol Bluestein. And Carol is joining me from Upper New York State. So we are on Zoom because thank God Zoom can bring us all together to do these kinds of shows. Now, before I have you start talking, Carol, let me just tell my audience a little bit about you, because there are aspects of writing that, people like doing, whether they're, just writing their memoirs or they want to take on this huge task of writing a series. And that is what she has done. As you can see, she has a series of 5 books in her possession right there that she has written. She averages writing about 1 book a year, which is pretty fabulous. Her first book in the series being Seduction, which of course she seduced me enough to buy, and I really enjoyed the book, and we're going to talk about that, and I can't wait to read more. She has been writing these books. They're all political thrillers, which focus on an awareness of critical issues facing humanity. So they're just page turning for sure. Carol not only writes, but she is a business person. And when you're writing, there's many aspects of the writing industry. One is writing and telling your story or telling the story. The other part of it is the business end. And today we're going to talk about both, but definitely because Carol has so much experience with this business end, we're going to get a lot of information about everything, because she has sold over 20,000 books.
Yep.
And 40,000 pages of hers have been read on Kindle alone. And we'll talk about the pages and why saying how many pages is important in the business industry. She not only writes books, she writes essays. And all of them address current issues, relationships, and the frustration of living in our time. And boy, there's a lot of frustrations we have. So without further ado, I want to warmly welcome Carol Bluestein, the entrepreneur and the professional author from
Thank
New
you.
York State. Welcome.
It's wonderful to be here.
It's so wonderful to be here too. And, as I, you and I have talked about, the marketing aspect and the publishing aspect and, how to get things done when you've written the book is a whole different bowl compared to the ingredients of what goes into a book. So here you have your series in front of you, which, is awesome because, they all jump out at you. The titles all jump out at you. It's a series by looking at it. You have characters who kind of weave their way through these stories so that, we can continually follow their lives and their adventures, and they relate to modern day.
Mm-hmm.
And so before I talk about the business, can you just share with the audience, what got you writing political thrillers?
I was really angry.
Okay. Anger can get you to start writing anything for sure, but angry at the political world, angry at the universe.
I felt that a lack of empowerment, and that people had a little chance to actually tell their side of the things that matter to them. So it's not like a memoir, where I was a pioneer woman on the trail. But my first book was going to be my last book.
Oh.
Because I didn't know I was going to write more than one.
So this is going to be a complete book right here, Seduction.
That's right.
The one and done.
Then one and done. And
with the character Rachel, who is a writer.
And this is the new cover.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So people recognize it.
Seduction.
Yes. And So I put into seduction everything that was ticking me off, that nobody seemed prepared to do anything about. So I wrote about
Well,
college rape, which at the time they were sweeping under the carpet.
yeah, I mean, and your character goes through these experiences and, shares her experiences along the way of her living her life.
That's right.
It's not like it's just about that, because she's sharing
No,
that
it's
story
not.
as she's in other stories. Well,
Yes, no, the main problem is that there's a very small group of very wealthy people who control our economy. And I thought that before the 2016 election, when it became pretty obvious there were forces at work that were beyond us.
it's okay.
So
It's okay. Hello. We just let him
we'll
bark.
just let him bark. So I have them as my primary adversaries in all the book. So these other things are little side things. I had suffered from depression, so depression was a part of the book. The will to come out and redefine yourself is in the book.
Mhm.
And so the little things that are in there, the Holocaust is in there, because I have a hero who figures out how to kill people without hurting them.
Mhm.
Seems fair.
Well, I love when they're mining, trying to find the treasure, and how much of it are they going to get, because they found the map to find everything, and it was a great adventure. So
Well, that's the story in Africa. Yes.
You've written the first book and obviously fell in love with your characters because you kept giving them more stories, and society and humanity created these more stories for your characters to go through.
Well, actually, I thought the politics kept getting worse, and so I had more to say.
Well,
so as each thing came, perception is really about the art world, because I was very involved in the art world for a while. And when you see a painting that's all white and you wonder how that can sell for thousands and thousands of dollars, it's very confounding. And then I found out it's the critics. And if you pay the right critics, your work gets out there.
Yeah.
So it's all political.
Look at that blank canvas. Wow, let me buy it for $100,000. Wait a second. No.
That's right. So I explore that in here. But again, it's the cartel that's behind it, and it's about laundering money.
Yeah.
And one of the heroines gets a dog. And it comes from an experience with my mother when she had a stroke and we got her an animal companion.
Mm-hmm.
The dog picked her out. And so I have that in that book, that the dog picked.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So it's my experiences reworked.
Yeah.
Things that really ticked me off reworked. There's also a married couple of two women. So that was kind of fun to write, because I could be both sides, and really have fun with that.
So how long is it? I know we know you're writing about an average a book a year, but how long to get it to the point where it's ready for editing and then ready for publishing?
I would say 9 to 10 months to get it ready for editing.
Okay. And are you self-published, or do you have a publisher? Can you tell us a little bit about how you do your series and how you get it edited and formatted and put in nice book jackets?
Oh, I did all the work myself up through deception.
Okay.
Execution was picked up by a publishing house, Munn Publishing, and they published it. But you're running a business. Everything costs money. It depends what your goals are.
Yeah.
And so through Munn Publishing, I was put in touch with an editor and a formatter. So through them, everything is done professionally, including the cover, which I got done through Author Bites.
Okay. Well, and
Which
it's nice
is
because you had covers that you wanted them to, look related. So you had a nice format to show them. But
they redid it. This is like my 4th cover.
oh, really?
Yes.
So interesting. See, I mean, the writing part, even when that's done, the business end keeps reinventing what the book covers look like, so much of it. And working with a publisher and hiring editors and proofreaders and getting copies, there's an expense to all of this. And
Yes, there is.
sometimes, people writing their memoirs may be looking for a small batch publishing, just to share with their family. But when you're writing for a target larger audience like you are doing, you have to invest in order to get that audience. And, for someone who's looking to write from a professional level, like what is the cost to write a book, like to get one book out?
I would say that depends
Yeah.
on who you get and
Yeah.
how happy you are with it. And
I mean, I know personal
it costs. Okay, so what I pay for is I pay for a production, a story editor,
Mhm.
and she goes through and tells me that my story works and where
Yeah.
it doesn't. Then I bought some pro writing aid, and I use Grammarly, and I use the word editor to go through and rework my sentences. That takes about a month and a half to 2 months, in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah, I mean, because
So
you're
it's
not
writing the book,
and
then it's going back and reading everything and restructuring sentences. So I don't pay anybody to do that initially. I do that myself.
yeah, and personally, I don't think you can pay someone to do it because it's something an author has to do herself or himself, because you want to have the authority to make those changes.
Well, you do anyway, because they tell you this is what they want. You can choose to or not.
Yeah.
It's always a choice. And then so the cost, and then I have a voice. I have an audible book.
Oh, you do
on
Audible,
everyone.
okay. And are you
Okay, so
recording
the
audio
Audible costs
in the
about
studio?
someone else does it for me.
Okay.
I have a wonderful Crystal Lewis. She's wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my books sound fabulous. Easy to listen to. She does a huge number of books out there, so you would have heard her voice somewhere else, I'm
Nice.
sure.
Well, and Audible is really, a growing quickly, especially among commuters and, people who just want to have it, even when they're exercising, sitting on a bike, you want to listen to a chapter or two, it can really be lucrative, to be able to be out there in the Audible world. And while we're talking about the other options between hardcover, soft covers, Audible, I mentioned in the beginning, like how you do Kindle and that you've had over 40,000 pages read. Will you tell the audience a little bit, like explain why it's important to know how many pages are read?
Because Kindle pays you per page. Now, with all that said, a self-published author who just puts their books out, like I did, I did the book, and I published on Amazon. I figured all that out. And after a while, I realized nobody knew I had a book out there except the 20 people I told. So doing a book and getting it marketed are 2 different processes.
Yeah, again, another whole beast in this industry. And I see you're wearing your necklace, and
my marketing necklace.
Your marketing network and that necklace, which when I met you at a conference, it was like right away drawn, because like, wow, first of all, she's wearing not only 5 books around her neck, but I'm assuming she's written 5 books that are around her neck.
Yes, they're mine. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, this is really great. I'm walking over going, can I just read the titles and what are they about? And you are your own billboard, but when you can't be the billboard around everyone, there's this whole marketing entity of, how do you get the book out there to tell audiences around the world, read the book? It's awesome.
Well, you have to work really hard at it. It isn't a one time and done. And I didn't start marketing till this past year. 2022 was my first marketing year, because as a new writer, I needed a back shelf so that if I could get them to read one, then there were others to read. You know, it wasn't a shot in the dark. It was a serious. So between trying to think.
I mean, I know you've done.
It takes about for me $5,000 to $6,000 a book to get it read, edited, formatted, just to get the book and the cover. Well, what did I say? 5, 6,
5.
Maybe 6 plus
Yeah.
cover.
I mean, it's a big investment to put into your books.
And then you have to do a website.
And then you got to market
You
it.
don't have to, but you should, because people can then remember you.
Yeah. And you have a great website at carolbluestein.com. So yeah.
That was done by Author Bites.
Yeah, you have a really nice layout, and I'm looking to
That's right.
revamp mine soon. So, you know, I looked at yours, I was like, oh, that's nice. Can she do
A
mine?
writer,
You can do mine.
a writer told me about it when I had a terrible experience having someone design it.
Yeah.
And she said, this is what I use. Talk to them and see.
Well, and that again is yet another piece of this publishing puzzle as a professional author is you need to have this professional website. You have to have the professional design. You have to have formal professional marketing, whether it's an advertisement on, you know, television, radio, talking to people on podcasts, but also, you know, doing these book talks. You know I've gone to local libraries and, you know, Barnes and Noble and nursing homes, or, you know, whoever will invite me that I can come and talk about the book and do a little reading. And, you know, people buy the book because, you know, whether they're interested in the book itself or they're interested in supporting me, I'll take it either way.
That's right. That's right.
But all of that is just, there's just, you know, you go, oh, I want to write a book. And then it's like, woo, 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 how do I get it done? And it's like, you want to try to take it and you take it into these manageable pieces.
That's right.
When you're handling the business end of it, like what's your, I guess, your least and most favorite part of doing kind of the business end of it? And what tips would you give to someone who's, you know, trying to do business end of getting their book marketed and sold?
I hate the business end of it because I was in small business my whole life, and I ran my own businesses, and I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to be free to write.
Yeah.
So I'm spending my family's money before I die, so they may get nothing.
Hey, you got
but my goal,
your money, just enjoy it.
My goal, whatever that means, by the way, my goal when I started was to write commercial fiction. That means that you have to know your genre, you have to know how it moves, you have to understand the journeys your characters must take to keep people interested, and and plot it and know your characters. So regardless of what genre you pick, you still have to adhere to that because they expect it. And I didn't know that, so I went to IWWG, which is a International Women's Writing Guild, where we met.
Yes.
And I went in 2008, and I said, oh my God. And I started to write, and everybody told me, don't tell, show. And I said, what? Don't tell, show. Yeah. It took me 2 years to figure out what that meant. Yeah. Because that did not register with me.
Well, I've noticed that some writing groups that I have been to, you know, here and there, when someone's writing their memoir, they might even, you know, say like, oh, I did this and I went there and I saw this and I ate this. But it's like, don't tell us what you did, show us, you know, show your audience that, you know, pulling into the parking lot on the gravel road to my favorite ice cream shop, you know, who, you know, makes this special cone, and, you know, have that description so that it's mouthwatering for the audience, because through your words, the audience is experiencing this wonderful adventure. And, you know, with your stories, you know, it is where, you know, because it's not a memoir, I mean, it's something that, you know, people want to read because they get into the story and it lets them forget about their own world. You know, I mean, you can certainly find things in there that is relatable, but it's still like, okay, you know, you think, oh, my life is so bad. And then you read this book and you're like, you know, oh, wow, like I'm not going through what they're going through. But then again, look how they made it through. And if they if they endured that, then, and it gives you that escape, whereas if you're reading a memoir, you're reading even a self-help book, those kind of books are where you're looking for yourself in that book because you're, looking to help yourself maybe and learn some guidance. Whereas, you've got such a great balance of entertainment and just page turning events that lets you just escape reality, and go on an adventure and take you to places that, physically, especially during the pandemic, no one's traveling to, so
Yes, that's
going
true.
to these remote places, and you bring us in the book, like, you'll bring us from a place in New York to a place, all these different locations that it's like you smoothly bring us to these locations that we're experiencing the environment and everything. So, I can see how taking the writing classes helped you because it's helping me. And I know a lot of people, who do go, it is that show, don't tell, like give the experience, don't just tell the experience.
And it's pacing and it's plot and it's plot twists and it's rewards. But in order to earn the reward, you have to earn it. You have to be the hero of your story, and you have to suffer before you can relax. And
oh, is that what
it's a whole thing, characters building. For people who are starting out, if you're writing fiction, one really interesting way of doing it is get a horoscope book. And pick the birth and look through it to see what you'd like your character to be, and then make that their birthday.
That's cool.
And then it gives you the positive and negative.
Yeah, of their birth sign. That's a great tip. Well, thank you. Well, there's a really good tip for everybody trying to create a character, because, I have discussed this with people, like, how do you name your characters? How do you figure out what their personalities are going to be? I mean, sometimes these muses just tell us and it unfolds, but sometimes, we're given the choice, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I can name you. You're going to let me name you. Okay, how am I going to go about this? And, for me, even going through the baby naming book, to find that baby's name that has the meaning of what I want my character to have.
I do that online with Google, and I
Yeah.
do it for whatever country I'm writing about.
Oh, that's
because you can go, Italian first names, or Italian last names.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
To be authentic to that time. So,
and I also keep an alphabet list, and a character goes on the alphabet list, first name and last name.
Yeah.
So that when I name my characters, I don't duplicate, because it turned out that for whatever reason, the same names keep popping, same kind of names keep popping up in my head. And that's really not good, because they all sound the same.
Yeah. And I would have to keep a character list. I have my character list going, but then early on, especially in April Rain and a little bit in Angel's Journey, like I'd change their names a little bit, because I was like, oh, I don't like the way that sounds anymore. It's not flowing. And, for a few of my beta readers, when they got like a very early round of a few chapters, they were enjoying it. And then I gave them a few more chapters, and they're like, wait a second,
who's this?
And I'm like, well, Jessica is the girl that I originally called Gina, but I changed her name. And, we just kind of laugh about it, because they were like, what happened to her? I wanted to know. And I'm like, no, just, it's the same person, just a different name. So it's fun, but as an author, you have to keep track of it yourself. And good point that, especially if you're writing, whether it's a series or individual books, you don't want to have the same name in every book, unless it's that same character following through, because otherwise it can confuse your audience. So in returning back to your writing process, getting off of the business end a little bit, I know you treat your writing like a business too, because as a professional writer, and when you're churning out book after book and essay after essay, what's your writing schedule like?
Good question. In the beginning, it's write and think. So, well, it depends. It depends.
Mm-hmm.
The first book came to me very quickly as I started to write it, and different aspects of the plot and what my characters were going through. I have a lot of fun doing it. Some chapters stayed in, and some chapters were pulled in the final book.
Okay.
And I wrote it for everybody out there who thinks writing a book is easy. I had 11 versions of the first book,
Yeah.
changing things, moving things around, adding things. And every time you change something, you have to go back to the beginning and make
Oh.
sure you've set the stage for it. So she can't just have a mole on her cheek.
Oh,
at the
that
end.
happened to me.
You have to go back to the
Yeah.
beginning.
It
and
changes
say,
the
oh,
tenses of
look,
things. It
there's
changes.
a mole on her cheek. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did that with 350 pages,
Because
70,000 words. You go back
audiences
and
can catch little things like that. If you told me in the beginning that he had a beard and blonde hair, and then later you're telling me he's bald, I'll be going back going, wait a second, is this a new character? You know, you want to make sure that I'll describe. So
everything sort of has to go.
yeah, it definitely has
So,
to flow.
so the beginning, and there's a lot of research because I go like, okay, so now I'm going to go to Africa, and I actually go on Google Earth and go to the place where I'm going to see what it looks like so I can describe it.
Nice. Yeah,
And then I talk about some underground caves. So I did a little research on that. How does that work, and what kind of stone has to be there for that to happen? And I had to find a jet to do some transport, and I looked it up because people who know these things, who happen to read your book, especially the thriller kind of thing, they know everything.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you're naming something that's real.
Yeah.
When I picked the gun out for my killer, I had to research guns because I needed a gun that glinted, so it couldn't be just black. It had to be silver. And it had to be flat because it had to lie next to his body so that you wouldn't see it. And so I found the gun,
And this is why they say never look at the search engine in an author's computer, because the things we search, they'd be like, what the heck? Like, if only Casey Anthony happened to be a writer, maybe she would have got away with what she was Googling at the time that her daughter died. But
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was writing about Eskimos in book in Deception. And so I had to go to Alaska.
Take a trip.
Yeah, I had to go to Alaska on Google. I found out all about Denali State Park because they're in there.
Yeah.
And then I went to an outer island, which is affected by climate change, and the ice wasn't freezing. And when the ice doesn't freeze, it doesn't create a barrier from the ocean. So the island was sinking in real. And they had real pictures of houses that were vertical that were now askew and being held up with whatever they could find.
Everybody watching this in Alaska needs to read this book and then invite her out to do a book talk, because she needs to go see this. And as she's writing about it, that's so cool.
So you live it,
And so let me ask you about this one essay, because I know you've written a lot of essays, but this one essay title I think is like very cool. Because I want you to share a little bit about it, because it's like it came up and I got to use it the other day. The disposability of men. Like,
unbelievable,
you write a
right?
lot of essays for magazines and journals and things, and one of them happened to be titled "The Disposability of Men," which I know is a very serious essay, but of course the title itself, is humorous, and there is some humor. So can you share a little bit about what that is and where it is?
Yes, part of my marketing campaign was establishing myself as a writer, which is not always easy to do. And I came and during my search, again around 2015, 16, I came across the Good Men Project.
Good Men, right? GOODMEN.
Good Men Project, and it's on my website, or you can Google it. And I got involved with it, and they had a talk group called The Disability of Men. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Men are not disposable. I refuse. So I went to the show, and I found out that it wasn't that men are disposable to their partners. It's that the cartel, in my language, or the 1% of the people that own corporations, do not look at the people they employ as human. They look at them as things. And so whatever it takes to make money, they use their tools, which is often human.
Yeah.
So when I joined the group, the thing we were talking about was football. And the players get money, but they don't make as much money as the owners. The owners are white, the players are mostly not. And the players get knocked around and they get CTE, which ruins their chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which affects their brain, shortens their lives, and creates havoc. And the owners don't want to know about it. They were dismissing it. They were cutting off healthcare. So it became a really big thing. And then you think about how society treats its workers, and it's really the disposability of people.
Yeah, no, it's
how it happened during COVID, which came after.
Yeah.
And we lost a lot of health workers.
We lost a lot of, a lot happened during COVID.
Governor of the state of Texas withdrew mandatory water breaks. So now companies don't have to give their employees breaks from the weather, and they are now suffering from 110 weather. This is what gets me
in your next book.
It will be in my book.
I was going to say that will be in the next book because we know you get inspired by that. So, Carol, it's always so great to talk to you. Like, you just amaze me by your spirit and your energy and your passion to write and your endurance to writing. And the fact that you have been able to be an entrepreneur and take this, and say, I'm going to pursue this all the way through, so congratulations and kudos to you.
Thank you.
Share with the audience where they can find information about you and where they can buy their books, which I will add to the links below in the podcast. So, you'll be able to write it down, but please tell us.
My books are all available through Amazon because for you business people, they're about 90% of the book business. And yes, there are other outlets. They're also promoted through Ingram Sparks, which provides the lists from which stores can order and libraries can order. And you can find links both on Amazon and at my website.
Yep. www.carolbluestein.com.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for taking the
I
time.
was lucky to get my name. Not everybody can.
I gotcha. Thank you. I want to thank you, and I want to thank my audience for tuning in Studio 954 for giving us this opportunity to have the show of Why Write, to help writers start writing their stories and to encourage readers to look at the stories of some of the authors that are on this show. Because if you're looking for some great reads, there's a lot of great reads, especially in Carol Bluestein. So I hope you'll check out her website and go to Amazon and check out her books, check out my books also.
And this is the newest one.
Execute, right? Do the execution and support local authors. Support us so that, we can keep writing and do what we do.
That's right.
We love to do.
And climate change and education.
And you can learn so much, and definitely brings it back home. So at this point in my program, Carol, what I do is I like to give my audience a prompt because, if they're looking to write their story, we're giving you some information. So I ask them to pick up a pen and grab a piece of paper and set their timer on their phone or something for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever you want it to be. And today's prompt, what I'm going to have you do is do like a little research. So whether you want to do this on your computer, your phone, or even in your mind, but go to Google Maps, look up a location somewhere in the world you'd like to go visit. And maybe if you don't have a phone or a computer to do that, think of something in your mind that you have visited before. Maybe you went to the Bahamas on your honeymoon. Think about that location, and for about 10 minutes, write about the location. Remember what you know about that location. So even Googling it, you'll find a little information, and just start letting your pen flow and just write a little experience of you being at that location. So I hope you enjoy writing your prompt today. I thank you again for tuning into Why Write. Please subscribe to Why Write with Angela Grout on all podcasting channels and here on my YouTube channel. And you can find out more information coming soon about my conference in November, which will be at my website at angelamgrout.com and here at Why Write. So again, thank you for tuning into this show and have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.